Hi guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. So happy to have you here. I am Kim, and today we are doing a manifestation story time. Let's get started! Okay guys, what's up? Today I'm going to talk to you about one of the many apartments and homes that I have manifested in my life. I have lived in over 35 houses in the world. Yes, I counted. Yes, it's real. But today I'm going to share one of my many amazing law of attraction miracles, what the fudge moments of life. So I'm going to share a story about how I manifested my dream apartment in Times Square in New York City. So this story takes place when I was 23 years old. My birthday had just happened. I had just turned 23. I had broken up with my ex-fiance at the time, and I decided that when one dream falls apart, you can't sit around and cry about it. You gotta chase the next dream. And that's what I was about to do. I was about to move to New York City. New York City was a dream of mine for many years. The first time I went to New York City was in 2001. We didn't go in 2000 in the millennial because we thought the world was going to end. Fun fact of life. So the first time I went, I want to say that I was in 9th or 10th grade. I had stars in my eyes when I saw New York City for the first time. It was everything to me. I didn't care how cold it was. I didn't care how dirty it was. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the people, with the hecticness, with the madness, with the restaurants, with the flashing lights, with the millions of things that are happening, with the snow, with everything. I felt like I was walking in a real life movie. It was astounding. It was amazing. We celebrated New Year's there. We saw the ball drop in Times Square. It was freezing beyond belief. It was one of the coldest New York New Year's moments. It was insane. But from that moment, I was obsessed with New York. Anyways, so for years and years, my dream was to move to New York City. I swore that if I died and did not live in New York City, like, my life was meaningless at the time. Like, I was planning to move to New York like every year and every whatever of my life. That was always the dream. So I decided the day after my birthday, August 13th, that I was going to move to New York. Originally, when I was younger, I wanted to do Broadway in New York, and then I gave up on that singing, dancing dream. But I was into fashion at the time. I already had gone to school for makeup and wardrobe styling and worked on TV shows and things like that. So I wanted at the time to design my own shoe line, and I started designing my own shoe line, and then I was like, it'd be really cool, and this is how I can sell and pitch this to my parents at the time that were supporting all my nuts dreams. No, actually at 21 they stopped, but they still helped a little bit. Was that I was going to find a school that, and then I can get a degree in like accessory design. So I found FIT, I found the perfect program. It started on August 25th. I really remember this because I literally had 12 days to move to New York City. And mind you, back then I had never lived in a different state other than California or Israel as a kid. So this was a bold move, but my parents, I think at the age of 23, already knew that I was a wild star. I had moved out when I was 18. This would have been my third apartment. They knew that I was just a go-getter, and at this point they kind of were like, Hofit's gonna do what Hofit's gonna do. My parents call me Hofit. The rest of the world calls me Kim, but they call me Hofit. They started to accept that I'm not normal, that I like to do things differently. So with that, I moved to New York. Now, at the time when I moved to New York, this is not a New Yorker thing to do, but it is a Kim Cohen thing to do. I live my life through movies, and that's how I manifest things when I was younger. And I really thought that Times Square is New York City. Like, if you have an apartment in the middle of freaking Times Square, you are living the dream. Later on, I had learned after moving to New York that that is not the actual dream, that it's super touristy, that real New Yorkers don't actually go to Times Square, and some of them haven't been in years, and that there's nothing really to do there. But as a person who loved theater, as a person who loved flashing lights and making dreams come true and doing everything the best of the best of the best of the top of the best, That's what I had envisioned. That's what I wanted. That's what I had manifested. My school was also a few blocks away. So it made sense for me. So at the time, I had two friends that lived in New York. One just finished her degree in NYU, and she was graduating and moving out to California. And then the other one was just starting at NYU, and she was also about to like go on a trip. So I had literally a day to hang out with my friend, the one that had moved. And then I had stayed with the other girl, my other friend. And I didn't have that much time to find an apartment. I didn't know how to find an apartment in New York. New York is very different than LA. In LA, you drive around, you see for lease, for rent, there's a phone number, you drive around, you see it, you get it, you call it, you check out the apartment, you like it, you sign a lease, thank you, next. But in New York, it does not work like that. There is no signs, there is no numbers, there is nothing. I was like, what is this? How do you find an apartment? Back then, you found an apartment on Craigslist. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna use this Craigslist thing. So I was searching like a madman. I had already started school. So I landed the first day of school, basically, and I had to go to school. Meanwhile, I was staying at my friend's house. Meanwhile, I was trying to learn like the streets of New York and how not to get lost in the subways and all these things. Meanwhile, trying to find an apartment ASAP before she leaves, because then I'm basically homeless. So I didn't understand the system. New York is totally different. It's a whole other ballgame. It's like the race to the million. It's a whole other thing. In New York, basically, this is how it goes. You find a listing, they have an open house, everybody and their mom goes there. It's like, there's no really appointments. It's just like an open door, and there's like 40, 50, 100 people that are just coming in and out the entire day. And it's kind of like placing a bid, kind of like eBay back in the day. It's like you saw it, you liked it, you're like, here you go, I'll give you a check right now and let me have it. And the guy's like, thank you for the check, here's the apartment. And like next day it's fucking gone. It's gone off of Craigslist, and you're like, where did that apartment that I liked go? It disappeared. So I was very picky, as always. I have like my, standards and things that I like, and I wanted it to be in a certain location. So for days and days and days, I'm looking for the right price. I mean, I knew I had to compromise and have a roommate. Wasn't into it, but that's the New York life. Deal with it. So I went and I saw a bunch of places, and nothing really did it for me. I just could not deal with the closet size situation. I couldn't accept the fact that you have a room to only fit a bed and not even a desk, and you have to pay like $1,500 for it and have a roommate. Was not into it. I kept looking at different apartments, walking around, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I come across this listing. The photos looked amazing. This beautiful apartment in Times Square. The price was reasonable. The apartment that I wanted was on 47th and Broadway. It is, you walk downstairs, and to your left, once again, I don't know my left and right, is a Broadway theater, and in less than 500 feet, you are in Times Square. The rooftop was the best part, because the rooftop, you can see the ball drop, kind of. Like, you can see the whole thing. It was insane. It had a doorman, which I was really into. It had an elevator, which I was really into. It had all these credentials that I wanted, so I didn't have to walk up a bunch of stairs. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go check out this place. So I go, I check it out. Now what this apartment, what they do and what a lot of people do in New York is they buy a 1-bedroom apartment, and then they turn the living room into 2 bedrooms. So they built like a wall, and then they make it 2 bedrooms. So there was 3 bedrooms in this apartment. Walked in, there was no living room, like that's freaking weird, but I guess this is the New York life. And there was a really small room for rent. I looked at it, I was like, yeah, I can picture myself living here. Yeah, this is pretty cool. It's like in the movies, when you have roommates. I've never had roommates then. I've never been into roommates. I don't like roommates. But I was like, but let's just live the movie life. So I'm like super into it. I asked him what the security deposit is. The guy tells me. I'm like, wow, I love it. And I leave, and I'm like, oh my God, like this is in Times Square. This is Times Square. This is nuts, And you walk out, and it's like all this hecticness, and restaurants and people, and the subway was super close. Everything was like perfect. And I was like, I really want that. I'm gonna wait for the guy to call me. So I wait the next day for the guy to call me. The guy doesn't call me. And the whole time I'm visualizing myself living in this place, what it would look like to wake up in the morning, to get on the subway that's super close to my school, to be in Times Square at midnight with all the lights, like just living a freaking dream, man. Like everyone always says, I live my life like a movie. I live whatever. It's all true. That's what I pictured. I pictured all the madness. I wanted it to be like all your favorite New York movies put in one, but me being the starring role, the starring lady in it. So I wait for the guy to call. He doesn't call. The next day, I wait a couple hours, I refresh the page. The apartment is gone. It's not listed anymore. I'm like, oh my God. That was the only apartment that had everything that I wanted. It had the subway, it had the elevator, it had the doorman, it had the rooftop, it was in the perfect location. Like, no. Like, I was so upset about it. Now, my friend was about to like leave in 2 days, and I was like freaking out about this. I was like, oh my God, where am I gonna go? I'm gonna be homeless. I thought for sure that the guy was gonna call me and like give me this apartment. So I call him and he's like, I'm like, hey, like what happened? I don't see it. Like, what happened? Like, I thought that I would get accepted for this apartment. And he's like, oh honey, it doesn't work like that. You kind of have to give me like a security deposit right on the spot, but good luck to you. I was like, oh my God, I was devastated. I like cried over it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be homeless in New York City. I'm not gonna have a place to go. Where am I gonna go? What am I gonna tell my family? So oddly enough, this is how everything is always aligned, you guys. Freaking crazy. I don't even understand it. The next day, I go on Craigslist again, searching, and I see an apartment in Times Square around the same area with an open house door thing with 50, 100 people going in. And I was like, you know what? This time I'm going to be assertive. This time I'm going to go with my checkbook and I'm going to write a check right away. If I like it, now I know how the system works. So I get to Times Square and I'm like, oh, strange. It's in the same building. What a coincidence. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then I like go up the elevator. I'm like, C7? Haven't I been here before? Now, meanwhile, this whole time I've been looking at different apartments and I'm like, what? Now, 7 is like kind of my lucky number. 7 is a number that comes up for me with big monumental things. So I've been in a beauty pageant. I was contestant number 7. I was in a TV show on season 7. I've been on 2 TV shows, season 7. Peanut's birthday is on August 7th. A lot of things happen to me on the 7th. Like 7th, it's like when I see that, I'm like, yes, that is a sign from the universe. Take it, go with it. So I see C7 on the door and I'm like, this is the same freaking apartment that I was at. What the heck is this? And behold, there is a room for rent. Now, I want you to understand, this is so crazy. See, the universe had already worked itself out. They already knew what I wanted. God already knew what I wanted. Everything was being rearranged for me, just like I wanted, at my highest standard, in the perfect situation. The room that was for rent, the second time around, was actually the biggest room in the house. It was the room that wasn't converted from a living room to 2-bedroom. It was an actual room. It actually had a closet in it because the other ones didn't. They had like cabinets that were kind of like closets. It had windows, which is a big thing to have or not to have in New York. And a beautiful view with like those stairs that you see in the movies, like in New York, the emergency stairs, just like I'd picture it from the movie Rent. And I had a heater in it. It had everything. It was the biggest room. And I was like, oh my God, this is meant for me. I'm so grateful. Like, this is why it didn't work out. And like when I had originally went to see that apartment, I like felt in my heart and I knew that like that apartment was meant for me. And I couldn't believe that I didn't get it the first time around. But the universe and God, they have a strange way of just rearranging things for you, even better than you had imagined. Sometimes I feel like we manifest up here, and then as time goes by, we kind of try to, we lower our standards because we're like, okay, maybe this was too high. Maybe I should have asked for this. Maybe. But no, you should have asked for this, because if you ask for this and you consistently see this, you will get this result. And I've done that. I'm guilty of, setting out like a high goal, and then as time goes by, I'm like, Maybe I should have requested. Maybe I should have put a a request with the universe for something like this, because this is out of my standards. But it wasn't, you guys. And it was actually cheaper than the other apartment, the other rooms. I don't know why. I don't know why. I'm not asking why. I'm just grateful. That is all. And I already was smart enough. I brought my checkbooks and I was like, sir, here's the check. That place belongs to me. I want it. And he's like, awesome. When would you like to move in? Would you like to move in tomorrow? And I was like, oh my God, is this real life right now? I'm gonna live in Times Square? I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe. And I literally had one more day before my friend was about to kick me out because she was leaving. What do you guys gotta say about that? Wild, wild, wild things happen. I'm telling you guys, I was so confused when that apartment was given away to someone else. And oddly enough, the guy on the phone didn't even tell me, hey, like, I'm so sorry that listing is gone, but there is another one that we're about to post. He didn't say that. That's okay, because I got the better apartment. So that's one of my many fun little manifestation stories of how I attracted the perfect apartment. I have done this everywhere I've gone, including the apartment that I live in now. This apartment right here, I actually visited a friend at when I lived in Miami, and I was like, I need to live here. This is freaking beautiful. And I started to picture it, and I attracted this apartment at the lowest price, at my price range. It was crazy. It was crazy. So I hope you enjoyed this little cute story of mine of New York City and my perfect apartment in Times Square. It was amazing. It was a dream come true. I'll forever have the story of how I freaking lived in Times Square. I mean, that's wild. Who gets to do that? This girl right here. And when things like that happen, once again, it always validates the fact that the universe is looking out for me. God's looking out for me. Everything's aligned. Everything is perfect. Everything is happening for me, not to me. And that is all I have to say. I love you guys. If you've ever manifested an apartment, let me know down below if you've ever manifested an apartment in your life. And what did you do to manifest it? I want to know what you guys do to create that. Love you guys. Kisses. I'll see you tomorrow on the next one.